Okay. City attorney form council. Okay.
Hi, I'm Councilmember Jose Huizar. This is the meeting of the Public Works Committee. We will be joined by Councilmember Alarcon in a bit. I was asked if we could start with items 4, 6, actually, 4, 6, and 7 first. So if we could start with item number 4, please.
Item number 4 is an item continued from July 21st, 2010. It's a Los Angeles Police Department report in response to motion of Councilmember Huizar and Rosendahl relative to the implementation and funding for a graffiti tracker program and related matters. This was also referred to the Budget and Finance Committee.
Welcome.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm June Gibson with the CLA. When this item was last considered, the LAPD reported of the success that it had experienced with the pilot program using the Tiger system. The system is one that has been used by the Orange County Sheriff's Department for several years, and through ITA and LAPD's efforts, Orange County has agreed to provide both the software as well as the technical support services to assist in the installation and implementation of the system. We reported that, given the fact that the installation had just begun, we would provide a follow-up report to the committee once it was determined as to any additional costs that would be necessary for full implementation. ITA and LAPD have indicated that there is a hardware application that would be necessary for a department-wide implementation to ensure that the system is going to be operational and efficient in its operation. The cost of the hardware is going to be between $60,000 and $70,000. The hardware cannot be purchased with CDBG funds. However, because of the fact that the CDBG funds are going to be able to allow Public Works to expand its graffiti removal services, that would then free up general fund monies within the department's general fund, which we can then transfer to LAPD for the acquisition of the hardware. So that will require council approval. For that reason, we would recommend that the CAO report back within 30 days with the appropriate recommendations to council.
So report back on which recommendations, on which items?
To allow for the fund transfer from Public Works into the LAPD's account so that they can purchase the necessary hardware.
Okay. Can we move this forward to Budget and Finance and then to Council, or do we need to?
I would suggest that the committee move it forward to Budget and Finance, and by the time it's scheduled, the CAO report should be ready.
Okay. And after, let's say the Council adopts it, when can we launch the initiative?
If things go according to plan, our estimate is that the launch could occur between mid-November and early December.
Good. And this would be citywide or area?
The LAPD's plan is to initiate initially to have it tested in South Bureau, and after they determine that everything is operating properly and efficiently, then the system will be made available department-wide.
Okay. All righty. And then there's, what are we going to do with the additional funding, additional unused funds in the Office of Community Beautification? No. What are we going to do with any unused funds?
What we would recommend is that, as the chair may be aware, there was never sufficient funding for graffiti removal activities, and I am sure that Public Works as well as the council would welcome use of those funds for expanded graffiti removal purposes, and so, that would be our recommendation.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your work on this. This is a long time coming. It's been very successful in other cities, and hopefully the city of LA could also do the same. So I'll refer this matter to Budget and Finance and recommend in our report that any unused funds go to the Office of Community Beautification for additional graffiti abatement efforts. Thank you for your work on this.
Thank you.
Next.
Item number 6.
Did he take all
Actually,
those?
let's do the graffiti ones. Next one will be 6. Let's do 6 and 7 together. Let's do that.
Okay. Item number 6 is a motion by council members Weezer and Labange relative to the request for the city attorney to prepare and present an ordinance to amend section 5.554B of the municipal code to include the chief legislative analyst and city administrator as members of the oversight committee for the Graffiti Technology and Recovery Fund. And item number 7 is a motion by council members Weezer and Labange relative to closing the Graffiti Trust Fund and that the balance be transferred to the Department of Cultural Affairs, Office of Community Beautification, and the remainder to the Graffiti Technology and Recovery Fund.
Any staff here on these 2 items that could report this or? Cultural Affairs, yes, sure. So you approve of any used funds from the account at number 7 going to Cultural Affairs?
Yes, it would be a great asset for our efforts, and we have provided you with a report, hopefully you have it there in front of you, of how we would go about utilizing those funds to restore 9 to 10 murals to a level that they could be maintained by the Community Beautification Department through the use of the anti-graffiti coatings.
Excellent. Let's go a long way.
Yeah, it really will.
Sounds good. Let's do this. Let's, is the city attorney here?
Councilmember, I am Tremblay. I'm the supervisor of the gang unit for the city attorney's office because we've worked on the graffiti ordinance, et cetera. So I'm on the criminal side of the office. I'm not on the civil side of the office to give advice or recommendations. If you have questions, if there's questions about what we're doing on the criminal side of the office with regard to both working on the taggers as well as graffiti prosecution, that's something that I can speak with and speak
Okay.
to.
So the question I had was that there was a motion that had there's a motion that requests that to amend municipal code section 5.54B to include the CLA and CAO or designee to the oversight committee for the Graffiti Technology and Recovery Fund, but we understand this oversight committee hasn't met. Is that, do you know anything about that? No?
That's true. The Oversight Committee has not met. When the new ordinance was done and passed last July, it set up the Oversight Committee for the new fund, which is the Technology and Recovery Fund, which was anticipated to replace the Reward Fund. Because of all the meetings and delays of taggers, the Oversight Committee has not met because it's a little bit tricky. The city clerk's office was not originally depositing the monies in the new fund. So we had a lot of issues and steps on the way, which your office staff was helpful in making sure that the new restitution funds that came through to the criminal courts now went to the new fund according to the ordinance. So then the Oversight Committee could convene and meet in order to make a recommendation about how those funds would be spent. One of the discussions as the ordinance was being prepared and passed was that that the Oversight Committee would make these recommendations as to how the funds should be spent in the fund for both technology to support things like taggers as that was being implemented, but also to keep a prudent reserve to continue to fund the reward program.
Okay.
So that was what was anticipated for those funds, was for the technology as well as, so in terms of after several meetings that we've all had as a group who are working on different aspects of it, it was suggested that one of the things that was left out of that Oversight Committee was having a representative of the CAO and the CLA as part of that Oversight Committee, so then it could effectively meet and convene and make those recommendations. And now that there is money in the new fund of approximately $30,000 in the new fund, the new Oversight Committee could then meet to make those recommendations.
Okay. So we'll do this, we'll approve item number 6 to add the CLA and CAO, and now that there's money in there, I assume you guys are going to meet soon?
Well, that's again where I'll have to work with the civil side of my office, because to ensure that that committee can be put together and what the rules and how that will operate, because that's not something that we do on the criminal side of the office. So I'll work with the civil side of our office to make that happen.
Okay, thank you. And on item number 7, we will refer that item to Budget and Finance and ask the CAO to prepare a report on this item. And hopefully, Budget and Finance agrees with us. I think if they see that list here that you provided on how much you guys can do with this money, that's going to really beautify a number of communities. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, just for point of clarification, for item number 7, are we approving this or continuing?
We're approving it and
Preparing it to Budget
referring
and
it to
Finance.
Budget and Finance Committee and requesting a CAO report.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
And that takes care of those other graffiti items today. Let's go back to item number 1.
Item number 1 is an item that was continued from August 4, 2010. It's a motion by Council Members Rosendahl and Reyes relative to the installation of a commemorative marker at the northwest corner of Venice and Lincoln Boulevards to commemorate the start of the internment of Japanese Americans living in the Venice community on April 25, 1942.
Thank you. Anybody here on item number 1? No one is here on item number 1. Okay, we'll approve that item. We were told there's going to be some presentation here, otherwise we could have done this consent. All right, next item.
Item number 2 is a city engineer report relative to the vacation of the Omeo Road southwesterly portion of cul-de-sac adjacent Lot 5, track number 14523, vacation number E1401158.
Okay,
Julia Moy, Bureau of Engineering. Councilmember Weezer, we have a small technical correction on this item, a small vacation in Council District 11. Bureau of Engineering would like to add the word representing to the first sentence of the discussion section to read, the petitioner, Kimberlina Wetman, representing the owner of the property shown outlined in yellow on Exhibit A. Thank you.
all righty. We have one public speaker on this. We'll adopt that. Kimberlina Wheaton. Here to answer questions. Okay. Support it. Okay. We'll adopt this with technical
With the
correction.
amendment.
Thank you. All right, next item.
Item number 3 is an item continued from September 2nd, 2009. It's a motion by Council Members Labange and Council Member Rizal relative to the creation of a task force to examine ways to regulate the sale of cars on city streets and related matters.
Okay, is staff here on this item? That's you. Sure. Is this it?
We have item number 5.
Okay, let's go number 5. Number 5. All right. Last time he missed his item. Item number 5.
Item number 5 is a motion by Council Members Perry and Council Member Parks relative to the renaming of the intersection at 49th Street and Vermont Avenue as Dr. James Andrew Brooks Square, and for the Department of Transportation to put up permanent ceremonial signs at the said location.
Just send it to Council.
We have one public speaker, Kathy Jenkins. Do you wish to speak on this item, ma'am? Fine. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I've known Pastor and Sister Brooks my whole life, which is 53 years. He's been pastor of St. John Missionary Baptist Church. This is his 60th year. They're celebrating his anniversary right now. I thought he was 97, but he's 98 years old. And he shows no signs of slowing down. He said he'll take his vacation in heaven. We are pleased of the work that he's done for the community. It's under his leadership that they have a food program, a clothing program, that they tend to the needs of the community to see that the speed bumps got put out in the middle of the street because children were getting run over, or the potential for running over, and different things such as that. His mind is still alert and still sharp, and he hasn't given up on his quest. I've been married to a minister, a pastor for 35 years, so I know what it means to sacrifice your life for the sake of others. And so therefore, I recommend him and his wife for the square.
Great, thank you very much. And what's the secret for being 88 and still being active and sharp and,
He doesn't let anything get him down.
all right.
I've only known him to be hospitalized one time, the whole time I've known him. He is still driving a car. If he knows where he's going, he can get there, but if it's a new place, they don't let him drive because he gets lost. But he can drive, and if he knew I had these pants on today, he's old-fashioned, he would have a fit. Every time he sees me, he
Tell
tells
him
me,
it's raining, you know, you got.
he doesn't care. He doesn't care. So I told him if they give him this square, I told his son, I said, if they dedicate this square to him, I'm going to put a dress on. I don't care if it's raining because I don't want him to have a stroke. But he is just a wonder.
And you said you only saw him hostile one time?
One time.
And what was that?
He had his gallbladder removed.
Oh,
That's the only thing I ever known he's ever had. And if you see him to physically move around, they
get the
hurt.
best. I thought you would start saying golf game, but it was gallbladder, okay.
Well, I know one, my pastor emeritus, he's 101, and he's still driving. He just renewed his driver's license. He's never taken medication, and I don't ever remember him being in the hospital. So I got to get together with these fellows and find out what are they doing.
There you go.
Because but he's a wonder, though. He's a wonder. And they've done a great job on 49th and Vermont, and even though I'm not there as a member, I help them with whatever they're doing. I'm still family to them.
Well, thank you very much.
And I appreciate the opportunity to express myself. And even for you to consider this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alarcon. Move the approval. I'll second that. It's so ordered. Thank you. We'll move this item to full council, and you could, Ms. Perry will make sure that gets to council as quickly as possible. Thank you. Next item.
Item number 3 is an item continued from September 2nd, 2009. It's a motion by Council Members Labange and Council Member Huizar relative to the creation of a task force to examine ways to regulate the sale of cars on city streets and related matters.
I understand we have the great council member from the
Huizar, good afternoon, Mr. Alarcon. I know
Council
on
District
council floor, you've spoken, Mr.
Four.
Alarcon, about a problem in your district. Mr. Huizar, in some parts of the city, people line the boulevards with cars. They're not from the residents of the area. It becomes a traffic safety problem, and we need to articulate that. And I know we lost a court case on this matter some time ago. So you're the city attorney, so figure out what we need to do.
I am General Counsel for the Department of Transportation. I have looked at this after being asked by your staff to do so. We can do it. What we're going to need to do it, though, is to have the cooperation of the Department of Transportation, the Los Angeles Police Department, and Street Services, and any other division that can establish with evidence the various problems that we've been having on these streets. We need photographs. We're going to need hard evidence because of the Burkow case, which was the city of Los
So we're going to take pictures of people standing in the busy roadway, looking at the car as cars swish by,
Testimony
look at the
of-
street that is bumper to bumper, look at the hazards they create.
the accidents that
Very
have
good.
occurred, and also testimony from residents who are not able to park
Right.
because of these streets. We need all of that in the record.
And also the Department of Motor Vehicle is working, because some of this is done by some people of questionable character who switch VIN numbers and all that stuff.
That's why we need the cooperation
Okay.
of LAPD, because they can
Well,
establish.
Detective Sergeant Harry Edel's here. Harry, you going to give us support? Yeah, happy to work with us.
Right,
Very
we'll
good.
make findings then based on what they
Good.
provide us, and that will be at the front of that ordinance. There are certain procedures we have to follow under state law so that we're not preempted. We'll follow the state law verbatim in the ordinance itself.
Good. Could you give me a 40-word email that tells me exactly what you want us to do, and a copy to the Council Chair of Public Works, and Mr. Eloquent?
Yes, I will.
Mr. Labange, if I can ask, What exactly is the problem we're trying to solve?
A street that people live on
Yeah.
gets inundated with people who are from outside the area who park a variety of cars, 20 to 30 cars with a for sale sign on it,
On a public...
on a public street. Right.
So the issue is not one car. Is it illegal already to have a for sale sign on your car?
No, it's not. That was the problem with our previous ordinance.
Right.
The court struck it down, and there were two reasons the court struck it down, and I think we can solve those two reasons. One, we had made no findings in the ordinance. Our ordinance actually predated state law on that. So we had no findings, and we didn't establish with evidence, even if we had findings, that we had the right to do it, or that we needed to do it, that it was a matter of public importance.
Right.
And the second prong that we lost on is that the court felt that it was too much of a burden for the person who had the for sale sign to have to advertise and pay for an advertisement in a newspaper. The decision was 10 years ago, that's outdated now, I believe. They can go on the internet.
Last century there, Counselor,
Yeah.
last
I'm still
century.
trying to get at what the problem is we're trying to solve. If
There's the
somebody-
cars-
If I can finish
yeah.
my question, Mr.
Right.
Blanes. The question is, if somebody is parked legally on the street, and just because they have a for sale sign on their car, we determine that to be illegal, what exactly is the problem? I don't get
The
it.
problem is people who do not live in the neighborhood. Like wherever you live, someone comes and lines your streets with 18 to 30 cars. They line the boulevard. And I remember in council, you spoke of, I believe, Roscoe
All the time.
as being a problem. And so,
I didn't say it as being a problem, I just said cars parked there to be sold. But the public thoroughfare is the public's domain, it's not the individual property of the people that live in the neighborhood. So, Mr. City Attorney, I think we have to be very careful as we move forward, because I don't know what the problem is we're trying to...
Let me articulate the problem.
Yeah, I understand
What
what
we
you're
have to
saying.
do is define the problem.
Right.
And I'm
State
not,
law.
and we tried to define it as a public safety issue, and the court threw it out, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
But we hadn't established
What is
with
the
any
problem?
evidence.
Are we trying to avoid people congregating at certain locations?
they walk into the street, they walk around the car, they're conducting commerce in the street.
Now, state
in
law
the street.
does address this. If we find, for instance, that it's not a problem on Roscoe Boulevard, but it's a huge problem in Los Feliz
What kind
Boulevard.
of problem, though? What's the problem?
People can't
Number one, it's a parking challenged area. Number two, it's a busy thoroughfare between access from the metropolitan area to Griffith Park. Traffic is bad to begin with. People congregate on the street, and it's a quality of life issue. And if you look at the broken windows concept that was written by James Q. Wilson in 1982, which is the basis for many of the activities that tried to prove
Q.
it.
Wilson.
That's what I said.
Okay.
Okay, this is one of these objectives.
But here's my point. I understand that these can be problematic. I don't believe we can craft an ordinance that can be so generally applied that we will be able to meet the standard in every circumstance. The way that I handle the problem is by looking at the individual case and solving the individual problem. So on one, for example, on Osborne in the morning, every morning when I take Victoria to school, there are cars parked for sale in front of the 7-Eleven at Arleta and Osborne. The problem there is not people selling it. I've never seen a person selling a car there. But what happens is the traffic backs up, because what really the way to solve that, and it's not in my district, so I'll talk to the council member, but the point is that the way to solve that is to put signage up to not park there during peak traffic hours, and then it's not a problem. So each time I appreciate what you're trying to do. We all have these circumstances. But I believe the correct way to solve the problem is to address the specific problem at the specific point of the problem.
That is one way you can do it, and the court cited, having restricted parking hours. The other way, and under state law, we can do it specifically with for sale signs. You don't have to have a citywide ban. For instance, if there's not a problem at Roscoe, but there is a problem at Los Feliz, we can have an ordinance that just lists the streets where it's a problem and ban it on those streets.
As long as we make the findings of what the problem is.
We have to, exactly.
Okay.
Or on those specific streets. There's a problem on those specific.
I was trying to include you, Richard, because if I remember from the conversation, you spoke of streets in your area. I just care about this street and many people who come from other cities take advantage of Los Angeles's weak enforcement, and they congregate and stand in the street and look at a car. I don't want to see commerce on a residential street, which is a busy thoroughfare that tries to get people to their public institutions like the park, like the zoo, etc.
And we can, if necessary, obviously, if we choose, if certain streets are a real problem and we make the findings and have the evidence to ban it on those streets, if it becomes a problem, if those people then move to a different street, we can come back and amend to add streets as necessary.
Very well.
Or do a pilot.
I don't know that you can, I'd have to look at that. I'm not sure that we can do it as a pilot program.
So we'll continue this item and request the city attorney to convene the task force to draft an ordinance.
How much time do you need?
Do we have to approve the item?
No, we're going to continue it, so we could get back the ordinance in committee.
I guess that's up to LAPD and the Department of Transportation. We'll work through your office.
Okay, maybe 45 days, Mr. Weezer?
No, it's already here, right? It's already, Mr. Alicorn's asking, do we have to approve the task force convening? We're requesting that the task force be established.
We could alter that, rest of the city departments work together.
Okay.
We get
City
it.
departments work.
And then come back to you in 45 days or less.
Don't,
Expect the city departments to work together with
Right.
the attorney.
We'll
And
do-
the CLA. Thank you so much, okay?
Thank you very much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Labange.
See you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And in our previous items, number 4,
Can I ask you, Mr. Chairman? We have with us today, as Mr. Alacon introduced and told the story of your mentors. Today is, we celebrate recognition for the 20th anniversary of the Americans with Disability Act. In that recognition, we have guests for a mentor program, and we have Trevor right here, who's a graduate, law degree, and also we have Jake, who's with us today. We thank them both for coming down and appreciate this opportunity to view government. Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Labange. Welcome. So on item number 4, we referred that to Budget and Finance, Mr. Alarcon, and item 6, we approved. Item 7, we referred to Budget and Finance. Mr. Alarcon, are you okay with those actions?
absolutely.
Thank you very much. Adjourns the meeting. Thank you. Quick and dirty now.